Welcome. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us here on TV 47. Of course, earlier on from my colleague, Ekola Odaida, of course, having ushered in this conversation about the 2026 Women's FIFA Series Championship Tournament. For the very first time, we have to emphasize this, for the very first time, Kenya is hosting a FIFA tournament. That is big for us, especially me myself as a sports journalist, having of course worked for the last 20 years in this industry. I'm very honored, of course, to be watching and witnessing history in the making. And also for the very first time, the Australia women's national football team is actually playing on African soil, and they have chosen Kenya, Nairobi, as their host nation for the 2026 Women's FIFA Series. That is big for us. Not only that, remember the Australia national women's team is not just only your usual team. This team is composed of stars. One of them plays for one of my top European teams, Chelsea. That is, of course, the captain of the Australia national team, Sam Kerr. She is here. In fact, I'm told by the coach who is here that when they mentioned Kenya, that this tournament is here, the coach had a hard time cutting down the top players who were supposed to come here, because people thought Team B or C of Australia would be here, but they have the A team here for the Women's FIFA Series. And that's why, of course, this particular morning we are honored to be having the Australian High Commissioner to Kenya, Her Excellency Jenny Darin. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Asante sana. I hope I didn't cram my introduction but it went very well. I think I got it perfectly well.
I think you did a great job, and I think you highlighted the historic nature of this competition. As you said, it's the first time the Matildas are playing in Africa. It's the top team. There are many stars in it, but most significantly, and congratulations to Kenya, Kenya's hosting the Women's FIFA Series. So we're very excited.
I'm happy. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for making time for this particular show to share this wonderful historic moment. And also we have the head coach of the national team, Australian team, that is Joe Montemuro. Welcome to the show. I know you and I are going to have a very serious conversation because, of course, one time you were the Arsenal coach, and I remember one time you and Chelsea, my team, had a wonderful tournament in terms of FA Women's League and the FA Cup, of course, the success you've had there. Now you are, of course, sitting 1 year already at the Australian national team.
Yeah, started in June, and it's been a great honour to be part of it. And it's great to be here. It's really, really exciting to be here. We took the opportunity to obviously play against some top African teams and be in this environment in the lead up to the World Cup. So it's an actual honour to be here, and you express the magnitude of the tournament and why we're here. So it's a real honour.
And I'm very honored, of course, at this time, some of the star players of the Australian national team are watching this show. So definitely I'll keep my English very good. And also, of course, my language in football very important as well. And of course, outside this particular show, we have, I know Costa is around here, part of the technical bench of the team, of the Australian national team, and also as well as Angeli, of course, from the Australian High Commission. I need to mention that they're around here. It's very important, of course, for that information to reach you. They're just behind the scenes. Your Excellency, let me start with you. How significant, as you just actually touched on it, about Kenya hosting this event and Australia coming here for the very first time, FIFA, of course, granting Kenya the opportunity to host their first ever FIFA tournament. It is big for us, and I'm sure, of course, the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, will also be here. Australia is big in football. How significant is this for both countries? Well,
as we've just been saying, this is very significant. It's significant for Kenya as the host to be able to secure this competition, and we're all hoping that they can build on this, that it won't be it may be the first, but it won't be the last. It's also significant because it showcases African teams and what they can do. It exposes our top Australian team to playing in Africa. But also while they're here, learning a bit about the culture, learning a bit about the country. And I think most significantly from my point of view, it shows girls who are aspiring footballers what they can strive to become. And that's what we've seen happen in our country, and that's what the Matildas have done for us.
I'm happy to hear that. Of course, I understand the Tillies or the Matildas coach, right now they're having breakfast and watching you. How hard or easy was it for you to select this team to come here? Because I understand you had a difficult time selecting the players and having your captain, Sam Kerr, who has captained this team since 2019 in Kenya. It is very symbolic and significant for you and also for us just for hosting this tournament.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously coming out of the Asian Cup, you know, we had a successful tournament.
Yes.
I effectively just asked all the players, you know, what are your thoughts about coming to Africa? And obviously we as soon as we qualified for the World Cup, we're now in tournament mode in terms of build up for that. So and it was very difficult. A lot of them really wanted to come, but we had to make some decisions on a lot of players in regards to coming out of the Asian Cup and going back to their club and managing their minutes and their loads. And some were coming out of certain levels of injury and so on. But it was difficult, and we had to make some decisions on where players were in terms of their build-up and moving forward. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, and I think it just sort of signifies the magnitude of A, the series, and B, you know, the opportunity to experience another way of football, another way of understanding. But I think a lot of them, you know, were really curious to see Nairobi and Africa, and from an education perspective, it was fantastic. And as the High Commissioner said, you know, they're great role models, and for us to come here as you know, with that idea, and in terms of you know, showing our expertise or showing what we do, I think it's an amazing opportunity.
I'm glad, of course, and I hope they have acclimatized very well. Of course, I hope they're enjoying the weather. I'm sure that the different weathers from Australia and in Kenya. And Your Excellency, I know there's a huge Australian community here in Kenya. There's a huge community also in East Africa and also in Africa as well. Tomorrow, Australia is playing against Malawi at the Nyayo National Stadium from 2 p.m., which will be aired live here on TV 47. Your Excellency, what is the Australian community saying? Are they poking you and asking you where the tickets are, or are they booked the entire VIP section at Nyayo National Stadium?
The Australian community is very excited, incredibly excited. I've personally been receiving messages from the Australian community saying, are you going to the football? We're going to be there. So I expect them to be cheering our national team on in full-throated support, but we're also great sports people, so we will also be wanting to see a strong showing from Malawi. We will want to see that team perform well as well, and we want to see a great game of football. I'm also hoping, because the Tillies have a great following in Australia, that people will also be watching the game from Australia and cheering them on, and, you know, taking the opportunity to appreciate that you can watch some really good football in Africa.
Very well. Of course, I'm happy the Australian community will be there. I will be there personally, of course, with the entire TV 47 and Radio 47 team. Head coach, of course, I'm sure you've heard about Malawi. Of course, they are former COSAFA. Of course, they are one of the regions here in Africa. They're champions. They're 2023 champions. They also have a good position on the world FIFA rankings, you being 15. They should be around 69 on the FIFA rankings, if I'm not wrong. What have you heard about them? And how do you see that game panning out tomorrow?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of coaching Tabitha Chawinga at Lyon, and you know, she's an amazing player. But the reality is that you know, African teams are very, very difficult to play against, because they obviously have their national pride, and they come together. When they come together, they're very difficult in terms of playing against. But you know, that's why we're here. You know, for us to experience these opportunities to play against teams that probably you know, are a little bit unorthodox. They're not as structured as a lot of the European teams. And for us, it's a great lead-in for our World Cup campaign. But you know, I think that the great thing is for us to experience this, and we thank FIFA and we thank the Kenyan FA for putting all this together, and with the help of the High Commission, you know, to make this happen in a really significant way for us is really important.
Your Excellency, this is huge in terms of sports tourism between these two countries. You can imagine, of course, the interest from Australia, from Malawi, from India, all those, of course, from Kenya. Now we're having these top stars. There is a huge impact that will come out of this. And of course, going into the future, it will create a lot of conversations, a lot of interest in both countries. How do you see that?
Well, we have a very strong relationship already. There are a lot of Kenyans in Australia. As you were saying, there are Australians in Kenya. So those people-to-people links are already strong. But there's no doubt, you're absolutely right, that sport does generate a lot of benefit to the economy, including through tourism. And if we have teams like the Tillies continue to come to places like Kenya, I think we will see that grow. And the real benefits of that tourism go to the communities that they visit, they interact with, and the cultural experiences that they have. Tourism in Kenya has huge potential to grow, and Australians are great travellers. So one of the conversations that I have with government is how can we continue to stimulate that interest, and how can we promote quality tourism in your country so that you get more Australians coming here to experience the culture. And I'm sure that the exposure that this tournament gets in Australia will encourage people to think more about coming to places like Kenya. But when they do so, we encourage them to look at our travel advice, we encourage them to travel safely, and we encourage them to travel with reputable tourist operators. So there's my plug for safe tourism as well.
Indeed, that's important, of course. I'm happy later on, of course, I'll be able to get the head coach, Joe, to share with us. Of course, you've been having a busy, as you mentioned, the Asian Cup, you're having a busy set of competitions that you're actually working on. Some of your players are also having club assignments back there, and of course they're here, and of course we're very honored to have them. I know we have some feedback coming through of us, of course, where we're having this conversation about the 2026 Women's FIFA Series that will be hosted right here in the capital, Nairobi, at the Nyayo National Stadium. Let me just, if you allow me, just to read some of these comments. I'll be standing just to go see them. If you allow me to, let me just read some of them. Brand from Nairobi says, these matches are fire. I hope that is also fire in Australia. That one that looks like that. And saying the quality is top notch. Wanawake wako on another level. Wanawake are ladies for the benefit. I know Your Excellency, you know that. Aisha from us says, inspiring sana. Young girls can now see what's possible. This is powerful. Of course, Mercy from Kisumu says, I'm proud of how far women's football has come. The passion is real. Wanjiku, of course, and Kevin sharing in those feedback. Coach, how Australia is ranked number 15 in the world. Top players from Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Roma, Melbourne, you name them, from across the world. What is that Australia has that makes these players thrive and be top of the world? They have made the best performance in the Olympic Games. They've made the best performance in World Cup and also, of course, in other competitions. What is that of course, puts Australia up there?
Yeah, look, we are a sporting nation. We love our sport. And I think, we find our passion in the sport that we choose. I think culturally I like to think we punch above our weight, we say in Australia, in terms of the population and the amount of players playing compared to a lot of other countries. So I think we tend to go above and beyond, having the structures and so on to develop. And I think women's football has always been one of those sports where it's highly played at a young age.
Yes.
And B, there are now possibilities to become a professional footballer. So, and I think, as I said before, the role models that this group or these group of athletes have given to women's sport in Australia, I think has shone a spotlight on the development of the game. And as I said, we create these top athletes that have had the opportunity to play overseas and develop their trades. So I think for us, it's we always aim high. We always aim high as Australian athletes, and we tend to use that as a I suppose a level of resilience to create good sporting organisations.
And of course, before you came for this interview, Your Excellency, we were having a conversation, of course, before you came here, about how, Your Excellency, how big Australia are, not only in football, in those other sports. And Australia also has hosted some of our top icons and legends in different sports, like, of course, our marathon legend, Eliud Kipchoge. So this relationship has not just started today, Your Excellency, it has always been there. And of course, for the benefit of the audience, they would like to know that it will still continue.
Oh, I'm sure it will continue. I mean, it's growing all the time and it's changing all the time. As you said, Eliud Kipchoge and a number of other top Kenyan marathon runners were in Australia last year for the Sydney Marathon and were very warmly welcomed by our community. They're recognised for their athleticism and their grit. Their resilience. Australians really appreciate that. That's something that we have in common. But we've also had the Kenyan rugby sevens team in Australia recently. We'll be competing against each other in the Commonwealth Games. We will be competing against each other in the Olympics hosted in Australia in 2032. So all of the work that goes into the preparation for those competitions brings those athletes together. And I think that while there is often in some sports a focus, particularly in televised coverage, on men's competitions, I just want to make the point that in Australia, the Tillies are filling stadiums. Now, when I was a kid playing football, that didn't happen. It doesn't take long for that to change. And I encourage Kenya to get behind its women athletes as well as its men, because in many sports you have fantastic women athletes and they can become globally competitive if people get behind them and support their sporting development. So that's something that we can also work together on. We have had a lot of experience in our country of fostering women's sport, including in football. I mean, the Tillies are at the top of that, but in Australian, in AFL, which is Australian football, in cricket, in tennis, in a whole lot of sports, we put a lot of effort into supporting women's competitions. They're now securing sponsorship, which is important to keep them working professionally. Otherwise, it's a lot of effort and not a lot of return on that effort. But we're seeing a real step change. Their profile in the media is huge. I mean, the Tillies are superstars at home, and that could happen here too.
I'm looking forward to that. And of course, coming to that bit of, I'm supposed to engage with the head coach. If you're just joining us, I have the head coach of the National Australian Women's Team, that is Joe Montemuro, together with Australian High Commissioner to Kenya, Her Excellency Jenny Doreen, of course, here to discuss and share about this exciting football tournament. For the very first time, Kenya is hosting the FIFA Series 2026 in the women's category. Head coach, you have also worked with Arsenal in of course, it's very historic. 2018 was very historic for you, where you won the Women's League Cup after beating Manchester City. However, you don't want to talk to me as a Chelsea fan because we didn't allow you to do the same with the FA Cup. Of course, for the benefit of someone who's watching you, of course, your other part of your other, qualifications that, of course, where you've worked, of course, you've been to Italy, someone who's watching you for the very first time, so that they can know you are not just only in Australia, that particular position by chance, but of course by merit.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of working in some of the best countries in the world, yes. Best clubs in the world. It's great honour and privilege, obviously, and very, very fortunate. And and the 4 years at Arsenal were fantastic. We won the Premier League, or the WSL, and then obviously went to Juventus in Italy and yes. Had a bit of had a great time there, and then in Lyon before I took over the Matildas. So as I said, I've been very, very lucky, and yes. Had some great opportunities.
Well done. Your Excellency, for the benefit of someone who has not been to Australia, like myself, I've been there maybe just virtually because of my friends who are there, and they open up virtually and then they show me where they are. So I've been there just visually. And they're interested, of course. They're looking at opportunities where, in terms of sports, maybe in business and all that. Maybe in summary or in short way, of course, what will entice them to Australia?
Well, Kenyans are doing very well in Australia. We have a large Kenyan diaspora.
Yes.
Kenya is our largest source market for international students from Africa, so we have up to 10,000 Kenyans studying in Australia all around the country at any time. We have people going to Australia for work. They're all doing very well. We both have similar qualities. We're both laid back. We're just, hardworking, get on and get things done. And come from similar climates. Bit hotter in Australia, but Kenyans do incredibly well there. And there are many opportunities to live and work in Australia. I think it's a good experience for them, and I think that's why they come. That's why they stay. That's why they build families, and that's why some of them are doing very well. We've had a Kenyan senator. We've had a Kenyan play in our national men's soccer team or football team. We have Africans breaking world records who are now Australian citizens and compete for Australia. So we're very proud of them. And, if you want to come, you would be most welcome.
Of course, I'll be soon making my way towards Runda for the High Commission to get my visa. And I hope it's easier, of course, to get visa for the Venice. Just apply.
Yeah, you apply online. It's very straightforward. You follow the instructions, and you tell us why you want to come to Australia and how long you want to stay and what you're going to do there. Many Kenyans do apply to go to Australia every day, and many of those visa applications are successful.
I'm happy to hear that. Of course, I have a lot of friends who are in Australia, so definitely it's easy. So I'll just make my way, of course, after this tournament to follow the Tillies for their next assignment, because I know they're very busy. Coach, I know you have a very busy schedule after this particular event. Maybe just for the benefit of someone who follows Australia, what will be coming up immediately after this FIFA series?
Yeah, look, a lot of the players are now going back into the business end of their club scenarios. Some are in Champions League in Europe. Some of them are in finals in Australia. So a lot of them are going to be pretty busy until June, and then we have a series back in Australia. And then the cycle continues. A little bit of a break for everyone, we hope, because as I said, we didn't get much of a break after the Asian Cup and then coming here to Kenya. But then September, another series, November, and then off we go, and looking forward to June in 27.
Very true. Your Excellency, just as a fan, you mentioned I consider you as a fan for now. How do you see the final? Australia, Kenya, Australia, India, Australia?
Well, I want to wish all the teams in the competition well. I'm a diplomat, so of course I want to see all the teams do well. And for my fellow ambassadors and high commissioners who have a team in the competition, I hope you're going to get out there and support your team as well. I hope the Tillies put on a really good show for everybody, and I'd love to see them in the final against Kenya. I think that would be awesome. But good luck to everybody involved. I hope most of all we see some great football.
Very true. And as we wind up, Your Excellency, what have you lined up maybe after they have played? They need to go to the national park, eat some of our food. I know already Joe Montemuro, head coach, has already had ugali. What else are you planning for the Tillies, of course?
Well, all of those things. I think there's so much to experience while they're here in Kenya. They're mainly here to play football, so I know at the moment they're very focused on getting ready for their game. They're having to deal with challenges like altitude.
Yes.
So they need time to do that, but I'm sure that when they get some downtime, they will take the opportunity to see the fantastic things that are on offer here in Nairobi, both from a natural environment perspective, the conservation work that goes on, but also the incredible culture that's here, and that people take the time to talk to them about what they do in their lives, because these are really interesting women, and and why they called the Matildas, and how did they get to where they got to? I think there's some really inspiring stories, and I hope those stories will get told in the days ahead.
We will get to tell those stories, of course, here on TV 47. From now, of course, henceforth, remember you're doing the live commentary tomorrow, and we're also airing that game. That is, of course, the Malawi versus Australia game and the Kenya versus India game, the third playoff and the final on Wednesday, the 15th. We're also showing it live here on TV 47 with the entire team, both from TV and radio. Her Excellency Jenny Darin, the Australian High Commissioner to Kenya, thank you very much for making time, of course.
Pleasure to be with you today.
Asante sana. Of course, the head coach of the Australian national women's team, Jo Monte Muro. Thank you indeed for making time to come to our show, and all the best, and hope to see you in the final, both on the stands and on the pitch.
Thank you.
Asante sana, of course, and of course everybody, of course, I know there are transport managers who have ensured they have come here. My very good friend, I think it's Peter, I've got should be here, and together with the others, of course, who made sure that the excellencies and the coach are here. Asante sana, Australian national team, all the best. From us here, of course, and on behalf of the team who made this possible, we thank you for watching this particular show. Keep it here on TV 47. My name is Tony Kwalanda. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.